What the f?
All right, so it's the next day, and today I went back to the junkyard, and I had the time to get those last two bolts out that are pretty tough to reach, but I brought my full toolbox today, so I had enough different configurations of a 15mm wrench. I was able to get out this brake booster. I didn't see any leaks between the, or seepage I should say, between the master cylinder and the booster, so I think this is good. And the LeSabre that I pulled this from, which I also got the trunk from, was in an accident. That's the reason it was at the junkyard. It was an insurance totaled vehicle, so I'm guessing it was driving at the time. I'm assuming that the booster was working when it was being driven, unless it failed, and that's why it crashed. But I have a 30-day warranty on that booster, so if it's no good after I put it in, which would be kind of lousy to have to take it out again and go pull another one, but if I do have to replace it, I have the warranty, free of charge replacement or refund. So to take this booster out, certainly not the easiest vehicle, not the hardest either. The good thing is you can move over the master without disconnecting the brake lines, having to bleed the brakes. It's just because of these flexible brake hoses here, you can just slide it right out of the way. Granted, there's not that much room to do it. With the junkyard car, I got a bit impatient, just started cutting things that were in my way. I'm obviously not going to be able to do that with this, but basically you've got the two, I believe they're 14mm bolts there, or they're probably 15 as well, for the master cylinder to take that off of the brake booster. I got to undo that vacuum hose going into the brake booster, and then I go underneath the dashboard where the brake pedal is, behind the brake pedal, and there's the four 15mm bolts that holds the brake booster to the firewall. And then what I do with the junkyard car is I just completely disconnected the throttle cables, got them out of the way, removed this bracket. I also removed that right there, and I was able to slide it out pretty easily. I had to move the harness as well. Again, I'm hoping not to have to do that much with this vehicle. I don't want to damage anything when I go to take this booster out, but I'll see what I can do. So just a quick look, this is the crazy concoction that I finally figured out at the junkyard today. If you can see, to get this top right bolt out, because you see there's an opening there, but you know, it's pretty hard to get your, at least my big hands back there and try to work a wrench in there, or you know, even a ratchet with a smaller extension. So this is what I have. I have a swivel head. It's a 5/8 on an extension on my ratchet to get that bolt out. It's pretty simple with that setup. And then, I'm sorry, I don't know where I'm looking here because I got the light on my head. And you got one below that. That's really easy to get to down here. And then the other one, it's pretty hard to get to, but I was able to get it no problem with just a standard 15mm flat wrench. Is actually behind the steering column here, behind this kind of plastic enclosure on the left. And there's one more up top that's also very easy to, well, that's easy to get to. So top left, bottom right, easy to get to. The other two difficult, but now that I've figured out the proper tools to use to get to them, it's not that bad. So I'm going for the hard ones first, obviously, because I'm already sweating like hell down here. It's pretty hot. So once I get the two hard ones out, the other two at least will be a joy to take out. They'll be nice and easy. All right, the nightmare is finally over, halfway over, but it's always easier installing the new part than taking the old one out. The booster is in, it's nice and secure. All four bolts are reattached to the firewall. I was having issues with getting those bolts back in. Doesn't make sense, had no problem getting them out, but I think my fatigue wasn't helping with me getting the wrench in there just right. And anyway, it's back in. I've got everything hooked up. I believe I don't think I forgot anything. I double checked. So everything's hooked up. So it's the moment of truth. I really, really hope after all this headache that this booster works. Let's see. Oh, well, the battery died because the pedal had the taillights on the whole time. What a buzzkill that is. Let me hook up my charger. All right, I've got my 200 amp booster on it, but with these side post batteries, it almost never makes good connection, so. Oh, there we go. All right, that time it did. Well, I see 3 warning lights, the brakes still. Oh, no hissing. All right, we don't have a hiss, so it worked. Another way we can tell. Nice and firm. And it releases down afterwards as it should. So the booster's good. The booster works. She's working. No more hissing. No more booster vacuum leak. Okay, so I left the battery disconnected for a few minutes. I'm hoping that cleared the brake warning codes that were probably stored in the system. See if I'm right. I don't think I am. No, so why are they still on? I have an ABS reader. I wonder if this thing's got a bad ABS. That would suck. That would suck a lot. Ooh, wait a minute, the brakes feel a lot better. We've definitely got bad motor mounts, but I'll tell you what, this car is running beautifully. Now that there's no more vacuum issue with the leaking former booster in here. All right, so I'm outside with the Buick. We've got that relay contacts or coil circuit open. So I'm gonna jack this thing up a hair, take off the driver's side wheel, and I'm going to get that electronic brake control module out, send it out to be rebuilt. All right, so I got the wheel off and the wheel liner off. There's the electronic brake control module right there. You can see I've got it unplugged, and now all I have to do is there is, I think from what I can see from right here, 4, or maybe it's 6, T30. I'm guessing T30 because I've done this on a Corvette before. All right, I'm just buttoning this up. I've got the wheel back on, air box back in. I've covered up where the EBCM connects, and that way that won't corrode while I wait for this thing to return, because I'm not leaving it here in my shop. Here is the EBCM. I had to kind of help it out a little bit with a chisel and lightly tapped with a hammer. I'm gonna send that out to get rebuilt. I will update you guys when that comes in. We'll throw it back in the car, and hopefully it works. All right, so it's been about a week since I sent out the EBCM to Module Masters to have it rebuilt. And I just threw it back in, you can see. Hopefully it's gonna work. I'm assuming it will. This is a very, very, very common issue with these cars. So I'm gonna throw the wheel back on, reconnect the battery, and hopefully we have no more brake warning lights. All right, moment of truth. I've got the wheel back on, the EBCM hooked up, plugged in, reinstalled. Let's see if our warning lights come back. Well, I just reconnected the battery, so I didn't give it enough time. There we go. All right, everybody cross your fingers. Beautiful, look at that. So that was the issue. Again, I can't say I'm too surprised, but it's obviously nice to see it confirmed. We got no brake warning lights anymore. Beautiful. So that was the problem. Bad main relay within the EBCM. Here she is down there, all hooked up. So now I'm going to recharge the air. It's just slightly low on Freon. So I'm going to hook up. I've got a couple cans of Freon, and you can see a full charge on this thing is 2.2 pounds. I figure it's going to probably need a pound or so to get it back to being ice cold. All right, so I just finished charging the AC in the LeSabre, and you can see now right where we want to be here. And the AC is ice cold. Thursday, you saw me put in the brake booster. And you can see, I actually have my phone charging, And this came out so fast that I just kept going with it. It wasn't really worth filming, but I'll show you exactly how to take the dash pad off. So there's a 10mm bolt that holds right here, second one there, and then you've got an 8mm bolt there, and 2 more 8mm bolts. And then down here, you got 2 8mm bolts, and there's 2 Phillips screws you have to take out here. And the reason you take those out is then you pop out the wood trim that runs across here, so you could access these 8mm bolts right here. And the first bit of trim, because it's the dash pad that's right there, and then there's a plastic piece of trim that goes to the windshield behind that. That just clips in. And the clips were actually loose already. I'm not sure, they don't look to be broken, but they were loose. I was able to just, you know, with my finger pop the thing right out. Usually you want to use a trim tool. So that's pretty much all there is to it. Then this thing pops right out. You have to shift it a bit to the left because there's a piece that hooks on right here. But that's it. And the reason I take this off is now with it out, I can fix all the warping issues. And this one's actually not that bad. Now what I'll have to do, which will take a little bit of time to let it cure, is I'm gonna have to peel this back a little bit more. I'm gonna douse this in Gorilla Glue and put some weight on it to get rid of this crease here in the dashboard. It'll flatten that out. And also, I'm gonna run several screws into the plastic right here to hold this back down. You don't see this part because that plastic trim piece I showed you a minute ago is flush right here. So you can put as many screws as you want to make sure this thing never starts pulling up again, and you won't even see them when you put this back in. It's a much better method than using glue on the corners. Again, glue is fine right here to get rid of this crease, but the screws will make sure this thing never pops up again. And I'm gonna have to shift this over a little bit as it's deformed over time. It's kind of slid to the left, the dash pad. You can see how it's way misaligned, but get this line back up again. And same thing on the side, run some screws that you won't even see. And this will be peel proof. It'll be like brand new again. There's no reason to order a new pad. I decided to go ahead and just buy another dash pad that was less warped than the one that was in the car. And I'll show you what I mean by that. Here we have these together, roughly. But if you look, this one shrunk so much from the sun, the one that was in the car, that I can't stretch it. I mean, maybe I could try heating it up and stuff, but then I gotta re-glue the whole pad. It's a lot of work for trying to save $20. This one, which is from the car that I got the trunk and all the other parts from, the brake booster, I remembered it being in much better condition, but at the time I figured I could fix this one. I didn't realize how shrunk it was, so I didn't buy it at that time, but since I was back at the junkyard yesterday for other stuff, I went back and grabbed this dash pad for $20. It was in much better shape. It's hardly shrunk at all from the sun, just a tiny little bit over here. But as you can see, this is what I was planning on doing with the other dash pad that came out of my car, and I ended up doing it with this one. Screws wherever it's starting to peel up, and it also helps pull it back to its original factory placement. So the reason I don't do screws here is because there is a harder plastic there. This is where the airbag goes underneath the dash pad, obviously, but I don't want to put anything that could restrict the function of the airbag in any way. So I think that's maybe the reason why GM used a different plastic here. They didn't want anybody trying to screw this in the future. I'm sure they knew this was going to happen. So the rest of this, I went way overboard and screwed it down real tight. And remember, these screws are hidden underneath the trim piece that goes on top of this part, so you don't see them. But what that will do is help keep that dash pad down and from peeling up. Same with the corners, and I also put one here because this was starting to peel up on this. But even on the old dash pad, this was just totally screwed up. This one's much more fitted in better shape, but even the color is actually better. The type of screws I used are these are just some I had laying around my shop. They were able to cut through the plastic nice and easy without causing it to crack. So it doesn't really matter what you use. I wish they were a little bit shorter, but there isn't anything that these screws will catch on to when I put the dash pad back in. You can see I've got the dashboard back together. That is the replacement dash pad. Obviously not perfect as well. They're all warped from the sun, but much better than the one that was in the car that I pretty much could not fix. So here is the finished product. Now you might have noticed this little strip up here, because this one had shrunk so much as well, which of course you really can't tell until you install it. The screw holes that hold the back and are not covered up, you can see it doesn't look that great. So I cut this slice of material off the old dash pad, and I'm going to glue it later, so at least it covers up the screws and makes it look a little better. It looks great. So the dashboard's put back together, put all the other trim pieces back on. A few days ago I finally ordered the front transmission mount, if that's what it's called. It's a transmission mount, and it's the one that's on the front driver's side. This guy right there, the pancake looking one. Reason being, it's pretty obvious. I'm going to give you a little demonstration here. So if you look, I need to replace that transmission mount. Very, very simple to do. I got one off Amazon for 20 bucks. One of the most important steps in this replacement is just getting a jack underneath the engine with a block of wood and lifting the engine up just a hair to get the tension off that mount. And I'll just zip it out of there and swap it out. I'm going to start by getting this top bolt out. All right, you can see I've got the engine pumped up a little bit with the jack and the block of wood on the oil pan. That way when I take this motor mount out, it's not going to say bye-bye and fall down. Now, if you look here, got the splash guard. Again, we're underneath the front of the vehicle, oil pan there. You can see this bolt sticking down. We look up and we see that motor mount. So that's also an 18 millimeter I got to take out. And so I'm going to do that right now. And you want to do these ones first, so it's holding that motor mount in place. Simple as that. Now I'm going to go up top again. I'm going to remove these three 15 millimeter bolts that hold the bracket on, which holds that motor mount in. I take the entire bracket out with the motor mount, drop in the new one, and repeat the process backwards. Geez, what do you think? Was it time for a new transmission mount? I haven't seen one this bad in a long time. Usually you've got some cracking around here, but this one's just totally busted. 70,000 miles, but you know, being that it's always been a Miami car, it's probably all city miles, so that would certainly explain it. Got the new part right here. You can see definitely an improvement over what I just took out. None of that going on there. So super simple. This gets dropped in right there. And the bracket, the 3 bolts that hold that to the transmission, goes right back on top of it. Just like that, bolted down. And this thing should drive like a whole new vehicle. It makes a huge difference, especially in these 3800 cars. When this transmission mount goes bad, you know it. I mean, you saw me do the demonstration. Every time you hit the brakes or step on the gas in this thing, the whole engine's just boom, boom, boom. All right, check out the difference here. Much better. Obviously a little bit of movement, which you'd expect when you're flooring it, but it's not jumping around like it used to. All right, so forgot to record this process, but it's very simple. $20 or $30, I think it was 30 bucks for a window regulator with no motor, because the motor is still good on this one. This actually looks like a replacement one, to be honest. Probably a cheap Chinese one like the one I'm about to throw in. It's not gonna last very long, but it'll get the job done. So door panel pops off. 3 10mm bolts that hold the regulator in, 2 10mm bolts that hold the window to the regulator. And from there, it's a wrestling match to get this out of the space you have here while trying to avoid unhooking the lock and door mechanism. And obviously you could unplug it too. Once I get that out, I throw in the new one and bolt it all back up. Pretty simple. You know, a lot of vehicles, these window regulators can be a real bear. Fortunately, this is not one of them. All right, here's the new part. You can see it's definitely in better shape. It's in one piece. This thing just grenaded. So I gotta transfer the motor over. Like I said, that's working, so I wasn't gonna pay the extra money from with the motor on it. It's 3 Phillips screws. I can already tell they're gonna be a bear to get out. I'm gonna have to do that with 2 hands and switch it over to here, and that's that. Window regulator finally working. All right, so here is a LeSabre all washed up. Gave it a hand wash, and it cleaned up real nice. I've ran this through the car wash a couple times since I picked it up, but I've never actually given it a proper wash. And you can see I've done no type of paint correction or waxing or anything, minus the little bit of wax mixed in with that wash. It's got beautiful shine. This car was always garaged up until shortly before I picked it up, so that's preserved it through the years. But there was some, I don't know if it was slight fading and a combination of sap from a tree, but there was some, and I just thought it was faded clear coat. But you can see I've compounded this side of the roof, mind you, by hand, because I'm out of orbital pads for my orbital buffer. So obviously not going to be the most perfect job, but look, I gave it one pass and there's still some product left over on there. You can kind of see I gotta, you know, wipe that off a little bit better with a microfiber, but it cleaned the roof right up. So I did the same down here on the trunk. I gotta go probably one more time on that. If you compare it, I remember the trunk came off the junkyard car. Here is the before and here is the after. You can see it still has its metallic sparkle. So just, again, by hand, compounding it, it's cleaning up great. The rest of the paint is fine. I'm not even gonna bother doing any type of polishing or buffing or anything because it looks great and I have to use my time wisely. But obviously I'm gonna finish the other side of the roof and the trunk, and I'm gonna try to compound out a couple of light scratches in the car here and there, not too many of them. And I want to see what I can do. I want to see if I can get these scuff marks out of the bumper. There really isn't any reason I shouldn't be able to. But I'm going to try to get those out, do the best I can on those. But other than that, I got to hit this area right here. So very happy with the way it's looking. Just going to finish it up right now. All right, so forgive the heat bugs. I know it's a little noisy. Love coming back in this park nearby my house. It's how Miami once was, with beautiful Dade County pine, and now it's just a concrete jungle. But I love coming out here. It's a living reminder of the better days here in Miami. So anyway, enough of my little rant. Here is the LeSabre. It's all done. The only thing I have left to do, and I'm going to go do that right now, but I wanted to take the pictures first in case it rains, which I think it will. Is when I get new tires for the front. When I say new, I mean slightly used. I got a guy I've been going to for years, and he gives me a great price on slightly used, good tires. And now I want to show you guys how everything came out, because I did a few more things since I did the last clip. So you can see the roof and the trunk lid came out pretty good after doing the compound on them. Not perfect. I didn't go crazy. I didn't have any more orbital pads, and my arms are getting tired. I also polished out the right headlight here, and I ceramic coated both headlight lenses. This one was a new headlight, it looks like, so didn't have to touch that one, but I gave that one a polish with the special headlight polish. I ceramic coated both, so they'll stay that way for hopefully a while. But you can see she cleaned up really nice. This was just a wash, nothing more. There was a long scratch down this side of the car. You can kind of still see it, but I compounded it out the best I could. I mean, it is through the clear, so obviously it's going to leave something, but it doesn't look nearly as bad as it did before. But you'll remember that I did the window regulator on this passenger front door, recharged the air, and it's ice cold because when I touched the window, I could feel how cold it is inside that car. I changed the transmission mount, the big hockey puck looking one, not the other one, right up in the front here. And then I also changed the electronic brake control module because I had all the brake warning lights on, and that transmission mount was real bad. You'd step on the gas, you could feel the old engine move. So those issues are resolved. Obviously the accident damage this car had, which involved me taking a hammer and hammering out this area, hammering over here, just a whole bunch of hammering to get this quarter panel straightened back out and not pushed in here in the back. I used a heat gun on the rear bumper to pop that back out, and you can see, unfortunately, there's a little bit of product. The same thing happened on the trunk. I didn't get all the compound off because, again, I was getting pretty tired. But I was able to get all the scuff marks, the black scuff marks, out of the rear bumper. You can hardly tell anything ever happened to that bumper at all. So I'm very happy with how that bumper came out. Obviously, I had to change this trunk. Yeah, I also changed this panel out because the panel had damage, the one that was on here before. So I did quite a bit of work to this car, but it didn't cost me much at all. I also changed the dash pad. That's a dash pad from a junkyard car that was in much better shape than the one that was in here. And I had to screw down. So quite a bit of work to it, gave it a quick vacuum. This car was actually very clean, which was nice for a change. But here she is, she's all sorted out, all fixed up. I changed the oil, topped off all the fluids. This car is 100% ready to go. It needs absolutely nothing. It's issue free, good brakes, it's gonna have good tires, cold air, good body, no warning lights of any kind. I couldn't be happier with the outcome. I cannot believe how well this LeSabre cleaned up. From where it started to where it is now, and how little time it took, it looks fantastic. I can't get over how the paint cleaned up on the roof and the trunk. Look at the shine. And the reason I'm doing this update clip is I just came back from, actually went to a different tire guy because my guy did not have any this size, used or new. I got these two Ironman, which are decent for a Chinese tire. I mean, you know, they're definitely one of the better ones. It's a more well-known name than some of these other ones you see. These have to have like 90% tread. And I got both of these mounted, balanced, installed for 80 bucks. You can't beat that. Now it rides twice as well as it did before. Those old tires are right down to the wear bars. It did not ride like it should as a LeSabre. Now it does, and it just feels a lot better. So I'm glad I put those tires on. Now I put it up for sale while I was waiting, having the tires installed. Look at the paint. This thing looks beautiful. And the body's so straight on it. These LeSabres, as I was saying earlier in the video, they're always priced pretty high and they sell for that. These are very popular cars. And based on what is around me priced, now granted, you know, things can be listed for a price. If they're not selling or not getting attention, the price means nothing. I mean, I could list this car for $20,000, doesn't mean it's gonna sell. But based on, I spent several minutes doing some market research, LeSabres in my area on all different platforms, Craigslist, Facebook, OfferUp, all that. Most of them are priced in the mid threes with 110 to 130,000 miles. And there are some with low mileage like mine that are priced between 5 and 6, which again is about where the market's been on these for a number of years. So I want to price it competitively. I'm not going to, you know, sell myself short, but I listed it for $4,000. That way I should start getting some interest. I think I'll get pretty close to that 4,000 number. I'm certainly negotiable. I don't want to be sitting on, but I think I'll get close to 4. That's quite the profit margin because again, I paid $150 for the car. I've got maybe 300, 400 into it in parts, and that's being very conservative. I haven't added them up, but I haven't spent much. Not so much labor. I remember now the most labor intense thing I did in this was the brake booster. That was kind of a pain in the neck. And then maybe today just polishing it up, but I didn't mind that. I had fun doing that. It's always fun watching these cars come back to life cosmetically. So I don't think I'll have any issue getting that number. That's a great profit margin. I'll be making a $3,000 something profit on this car. So anyway, that's gonna do it. She's looking good, and I'll update you all in the comments when it sells and how much it sells for. So thanks for watching, and keep an eye out for the next one. All right, so here I am taking the last ride in the Buick LeSabre. I had a guy come look at it earlier today. He's about to meet me now with the cash, and we agreed on $3,700. I had it listed for $4,000, and I cut them a little bit of a break on the price because it's a return customer. Believe it or not, this guy bought a similar Buick LeSabre from me in 02, same color, higher miles, but he bought that from me last year in August, and it just so happens that he found this one listed, and his good friend is looking for a LeSabre as well. So we took him down here and he looked at it on behalf of his friend, because the friend doesn't know much about cars like him, but we struck that deal, $3,700. What a small world. It was nice to see him again. He was a great customer last time, and he loves that car, the one I sold him last year. He still has it. It's in great condition. He changed the wheels. I don't blame him, honestly. I'm not really a fan of the style wheels that the other one had on it. These 16s look good on this thing, and they like the way they look. But on his, it was, I think they were 15s, and they were very grandma looking. They were 15s. They're very unattractive wheels the other car had, but it did have new tires, so I wonder what he did with those. Maybe he sold them, but he did change the wheels on the other one I sold him. So pretty cool that it's a return customer. $3,700. It's a massive profit on this car. I'm into it for maybe $500 total. And again, that's being conservative. Parts and the purchase price of the vehicle, selling it for $3,700, and it's going to a good home. You can't beat that.